Relations Committee of the Orange County Legislature. This meeting is being transmitted live via video conference. I'd like to remind all participants to make sure that you've turned off your microphones or quote mute them on your iPad, your tablet, computer, or phone, especially while you're not part of the discussion. Also, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. Thank you. The public can find a link to this video cast by visiting the Orange County website at www.orangecountygov.com, clicking on the tab for the legislature, and locating the Rules Committee meeting on the calendar. At this time, would you please rise for a moment of quiet reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
God,
Liberty,
and justice for all.
God bless America.
Thank you. Doreen, would you please call the roll?
Cooley, Amo,
Here.
Benelli,
Present.
Cheney,
Here.
Hines,
Here.
Kulisek,
Here.
Paduk,
Here.
Vero,
Here.
and Fagion.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Doreen. I know we have other legislators with us, including Kathy Stegenga and Peter Toohey. And as I look down the list, I believe, yes, so good afternoon. Of course, with us is Chairman Brescia. For continuity purposes, as we go through the agenda items, I will ask those whose business it is before us to speak on the agenda items. I will then turn to members of the committee for their questions. Next, I'll ask other legislators not on the committee if they have additional questions. Just as a point of reference for your for the agenda item number 3 has been pulled from today's meeting agenda. That's agenda item number 3. So without further ado, we'll start with agenda item number 1. And joining us this afternoon is County Attorney Langdon Chapman, and I'll be seeking a motion and a second on the following. Requesting approval to sell the quarry property in Goshen, 31 acres plus or minus, a portion of Goshen, and that is 20-1-10.21 for not less than its current appraised value of $1,275,000. This is legislative request number 169. I look for a motion and a second, please.
Benelli, motion.
Vero, second.
All right, motion by Legislator Benelli, second by Mr. Vero. Mr. Chapman, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. With me is Eric Rusher, Director of Real Property, and also Brady, Law Department. So last year, as I think you know, or I guess it was earlier this year, we've done a new appraisal of this property, and the county is looking to sell approximately 31 acres for not less than the appraised value of $1,275,000. What we'd like to do is put it out to bid, but obviously we want the bidders to know it's actually for sale, not just speculatively for sale. So the purpose of this resolution is to have you declare the property surplus, declare it's no longer necessary for public purposes, and authorize the county executive to execute bid documents for sale to the highest bidder so long as the bid price reaches that minimum appraised threshold of $1,275,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. At this time, I ask that our counsel, Antoinette Reed, join us. And as fellow legislators may have read today, this legislative request has an addition that was submitted today. Antoinette, are you here with us?
You're muted.
I am sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
That's okay.
Yes, so I had Doreen send to all members of the committee and to the county attorney and to Mr. Rusher the language that part of it was drafted by the county attorney, and then the amount of money to be allocated was changed from $25,000 to $100,000 as requested by the majority leader and you, Mr. Chairman. So just want to read what it says for the public. This would be inserted into the resolution that upon the closing of the sale of the real property and a determination as to the security of such funds received by the county attorney, the Commissioner of Parks shall cause such steps as he deems necessary for implementation of recommendations contained within the 2012 Dutchess Quarry Sites National Register District Management and Conservation Report. And that report was commissioned by the Commissioner of Planning and it was conducted by the Archaeological Conservancy Eastern Regional Office. It would include, the recommendations include security, site stabilization, site access, parking area, and the interpretive center. From the proceeds of the sale, and that's the sale of the quarry lands, $100,000 shall be allocated to the 2021 Parks Department Capital Project Program, and prior to the expenditure of such funds, the Parks Commissioner and the County Historian shall propose a plan to the Fiscal Services Committee for such committee's advice and consent. The plan shall otherwise be implemented pursuant to law. So I think everyone has that language. So basically, we're taking the recommendations from the 2012 Dutchess Quarry Sites Archaeological Report, and we're utilizing $100,000 from the proceeds of the sale of the real property to be placed in a capital project for the Parks Department, and then the Commissioner of Parks, along with the County Historian, will put together a plan for security, site stabilization, site access, parking area, and the interpretive center. And that will be submitted to the Fiscal Services Committee next year for their input and their consent to go forward with the projects.
Thank you, Antoinette. And before I open it up to questions, I see we have some hands raised. What I'd like to do right now, if I may, is we have the Director of Real Properties, Eric Ruscher, with us. Eric, if you could you explain a little bit? We have in front of us, and all legislators should have received a revised map. It's called Agenda Item Number 1, the Quarry Property Map. Eric, could you just give us a little rundown on what we're looking at on that map, so that we're all in the same on the same wavelength here?
Sure, absolutely. If you all have the map, I did leave some printed maps over in 11 by 17. The scale on the map would be accurate at 1 inch equals 236 feet. If we start at the bottom of the map on the right side, that is the property owned by Tilcon, and you can see the entrance on Quarry Road. And as we go clockwise, there's the tank site that is 1.8 acres in kind of a pink color. That would be, is retained by the county, of course. Pipes run under the Quarry Road there and service all our properties, DSS and whatnot, so that would be retained by the county. And as we continue clockwise, you'll see in the red, 100-foot buffer zone, and that is all along Quarry Road to help limit potential ingress and egress on the site. That area in cross-hatched red encompasses about 4 acres, and that 4 acres is included in the 31-acre potential sale parcel. And then as we continue on, we get to the lighter yellow color was what was originally proposed by the Dunn Corporation and approved by the Orange County Legislature in 1993 and the state as the preserve area, as recommended to provide adequate protection not only to the caves, but you'll see the in the kind of a light green color what they call the locust areas. Those are areas where prehistoric mining occurred, where they actually went in and mined the chert, they call it, to make their weapons and tools. And so they're protected too. And the caves are noted in green. And the darker orange crosshatch shows the area that we are recommending be added for additional protection of that area that would all be county owned, and as Mrs. Reed was saying, that would be included in the county-owned cave area protection preserve area. That's 16.97. So we'd actually be recommending increasing that area by roughly 29%. And then, you know, the area of the 31-acre parcel just goes around and then off to the left and back down towards the tank parcel. And that's pretty much the map. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We're going to do that now. We're going to open it up to committee questions, and I see some hands raised. I'm writing notes down here, so just bear with me just a moment. And the first hand raised I see is Majority Leader Katie Benelli. Majority Leader, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. As Legislative Council Reed stated in the addition that we want to add to that as far as protecting the caves, I just wanted to clarify, because we had talked initially, you probably saw some language that talked about the $25,000. I just wanted to explain where the $100,000 came from. And in deliberation and looking at all of this, I made a phone call to Commissioner of Parks, Jim Brooks, and I explained to him what the proposal was to look like, and if he could give me a ballpark idea that we could put into a capital project to set the money aside. And after some discussion, he recommended that the $100,000 was a good round number. It's a good starting point. If it's not enough money, we can obviously amend it. We can also do the project in phases. And that speaks very well to how we would proceed, especially under the circumstances that we're dealing with in our world today. So we may have to phase the project out. Maybe it'll come in at 100, we don't know. But there were a lot of people that felt the 25 wasn't enough. And as I said, after discussion with the commissioner, we felt that $100,000 was a very good number to use moving forward. So I just wanted to clarify that for people that may not understood where it came from.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next I have Legislator Cheney, followed by Legislator Paduk. Mr. Cheney, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Relative to the addition that Council Reed just spoke to, the next to the last sentence, the copy that I have also indicates for approval of the expenditures of said funds by this legislature. I don't recall you saying that when you read it. Has that been removed?
Yes, after I reviewed it again, you don't need the approval of the legislature, so.
Okay. Mr. Ruscher, just so I'm trying to get a little clarification relative to the area that the county would be retaining, the 16.97 acres. And there's the 13.2, which is the original designation of the quarry sites National Historic District on the National Register. And then there are two orange areas. Are those areas intended to be maintained under ownership of the county, or are those being sold?
Yes, they would be. Actually, the map started getting too busy, so we kind of left it like this. But this is the additional roughly 3.77 acres that we are proposing as the expansion for the county preserve area. So yes, it would be county owned.
Okay. Then I guess could you just talk about the closeness of any of the area that we would be selling in this sale of the property to the caves relative to how the existing mining that's already occurred is to the cave sites?
Well, on that diagram, and we actually used the 2012 planning report. As many of you looked in and saw the report, you saw the cave locations. That's how we plotted them in there. The closest in configuration to the mining area would be cave number 2, and actually back in I guess it was the 70s. That cave itself the mouth of that cave is about 18 inches tall, and it was found out that due to there was ceiling boulders that fell, and then they actually analyzed what was outside of the cave itself, that some charcoal and a little hammerstone and this and that, and they deemed it through additional testing, I guess electromagnetic testing, too unstable to do any further testing on it. But in addition to that, they deemed that there was really nothing of significance to be found there. Basically, the caves 1 and 8 were the ones that provided the most, significant findings as far as the caves go.
Yeah, I guess I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as the, the current mining permit, I know it's basically the diameter of the pit isn't supposed to get any bigger, and any deeper mining is supposed to be done towards the Tilcon property at the southern portion of the site.
So would you say that, based on what we're maintaining as ownership, that any future quarrying operations would not get any closer to those caves than than what's currently shown, and was, as you said, I guess, excavated in the 70s?
Right. I wouldn't think so. And any, not under the current mining permit, and any other mining permit that would be entered into would also have some type of reclamation plan, which basically goes through the same process with this, protection of the caves and whatnot. And that, as it, the property's been mined since the 1930s, and basically they're saying, they had mentioned back in 90s that they thought the 13.2 was adequate. So that's why, we're thinking that by adding the additional space, it really protects the significance of the cave area, and would there's still quite a bit of material in the mine itself.
Okay, thank you. One more thing, I'd just like to speak to the amount that's being proposed today. I think that it's probably much less than what we may end up wanting to do here. And I think even in the beginning, I would think it would be more appropriate to have the number be $200,000. We've been working with this site and considering it for many years. And I just, those are kind of the numbers that we were talking about when the price we were going to get for it in a sale was much less than what we're anticipating and hoping to get this time around. So I would think that the 200,000 would be a more appropriate number, with all deference to Mr. Brooks. And I think Mr. Brooks, that's a qualified number in that, that's a start. And the 2012 management report that we received, talks about a lot of things needing to happen. We need to have, figure out how to have oversight. We need site security, certainly site access, site stabilization. We need to protect those caves in any manner of fashion that may be necessary. So my expectation is that, and my desire is that we should increase that to 200,000. I won't make that any kind of a motion if that would even be appropriate, but I'd like to hear what any of the other legislators say. And I think that one of the other things that's pointed out in the 2012 report, and that is that we should be intending to work closely with the Orange County chapter of the New York State Archaeological Association. I think they're a very valuable potential partner for this this site, and I think that they would also feel that that they would like to be involved. So with that, I'm done, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Legislator Cheney. Barry, you and I, we talked on Monday I made it a point Monday to go on my own little fact-finding tour. I hiked the area over there, and you know, you're right that the money that we're talking about today is a good starting point. As you said, this is a start, and as we develop that, obviously, that's something to be looked at. I will say one thing, that you got to be a hardy hiker, and you got to know exactly where you're going to get anywhere near close to those caves right now. I mean, the brush is overgrown, and so in terms of site development and stuff, I know Commissioner Brooks, I know he'll have his work cut out for him there, but in terms of site protection, I think nature's doing its nice job right now, keeping all the brush. So any looky-loos want to go in there, they're going to have to know exactly where they're going and bring a big machete with them. So that being said, I see we still have hands up. Next up is my
Excuse me, we don't encourage anyone to go to the site right now until the caves are protective. Don't need a lawsuit on our hands.
Lots of pricker bushes there. They kept a lot. They keep everyone off. Next, we have Legislator Minority Leader Paduch. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Mr. Cheney talked about a lot of the things that I was going to mention in regard to that. Now, there's a couple questions, Eric, I have for you in regards to the 16.97 acres. On the left side, not where the 16.9 is spelled out, but on the orange on the opposite side, how big is that parcel right there? Footage of it.
Well, actually, if
I know that's an area of concern.
Okay, now that is county retained. If we're looking at the Red Hatch buffer area of 100 foot, we're probably looking at about I would say 60 by 1 inch equals 236 feet. It might be like a half acre or something. It's hard to say exactly. That's added on to.
Go ahead.
No, that's added on that side where basically also included in the expansion of the preserve area.
Right. So the county owns all the orange and yellow. Correct. That area right there that I was just discussing, isn't that the area where it's the deepest right now, where they're pumping from? They're pumping to keep it dry there?
I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. That one strip you're saying on the left-hand side?
Yes, yep.
I don't believe so, but I can't guarantee it myself, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you why. I've been talking with Mr. Berkman, who knows this site very well. There's a lot of concerns I have. There's a lot of concerns I have here as well. First concern I have is if we approve this today, we no owner have the authority about the sale. We're giving the authority to the county executive when the legislature controls all the property in Orange County. So and Antoinette, would you just confirm that that's correct? Because this resolution reads that approval to sell the quarry. So we're giving the county executive's office the approval to sell the quarry before we see any contract or whatever. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, because the resolution really is, you set the minimum price based upon the appraisal that you have. And at that point in time, it's just like a bid. Whoever gives us the highest amount, something that at least the appraisal value, they've met the condition of our resolution. And so basically it could be sold to whoever gives us the best deal. So, but it's unlike the Grand Street properties, because we're not looking for development, to see economic development or anything like that. This is just a straight real estate deal.
Right. Okay. Well, and then another concern I have is he mentioned the appraisal, but was the appraisal done by a certified appraisal company? Because in the past, Mr. McCary had it at 300, then it went to 600, then it went to whatever 700 or 50 or something. So was this done by a certified appraisal company other than Mr. Rusher?
Yes, it was, and I believe every legislator did receive a copy of the appraisal.
Okay,
yeah, I didn't do the appraisal. The appraisal was done by valuation consultants. There was quite a differential in this appraisal compared to the past. one that was done in January of 2016. One of the issues was the appraiser used the wrong conversion factor when he basically converted the available material from cubic yards to tons. He used 1.4 and should have used 2.0. Another thing that was an error is when he came up with an income projection of the amount for an income value for the property, used the actually current rate which the county was getting for the material, which was 45 cents a ton, which was well below the market value of the material. Those two things resulted in, and I believe the current appraisal is very thorough and basically well supported. And those were really the two major items that reflected the price difference. I actually looked at when coming up with a value and researching it myself, I looked at what the county pays for bid for material loaded on county trucks at the site, and researched basically expenses and whatever to develop kind of a net operating income. And I think his numbers are all really good on the appraisal. I'm very comfortable with it.
So we only had one appraisal done then by one company.
Correct.
Okay, so do we have a study anywhere of the impact of the blasting that has on the caves? I know there should be a site plan somewhere and maybe a reclamation plan, but I haven't seen any of that.
The DEC
Is there
is
something available?
and they have to take into account anything that the law requires with respect to historic architecture, archaeology, and things like that. So any mining permits are issued under the Mine Land Reclamation Act.
Okay, well, my biggest concern is giving the county executive the authority when we own the property, and why doesn't he come back with us with his proposal of what's going to happen and show us a site plan for where everything's going to happen. I remember the last time we talked about it, that 1.8 acres down at the bottom where the water tank is that feeds Valley View and the properties across the street, there were issues there. Were they caused by blasting? Nobody ever did a study to check it out. I don't know if they've been repaired, if they're still leaking. I mean, there's a lot of issues here for us just to say, yeah, go ahead and sell it before the impact it might have an impact on Valley View. I mean, I don't know any of those issues. I haven't seen the study on any of it. I am really happy about the Conservancy report and that we're going to have an interpretive center. I agree with Mr. Cheney. At least $200,000 should be put aside if it is sold. But in the meantime, I'm not gonna okay the county executive to just take control and sell it for whatever he gets for it, when in fact we own the properties. Come back to us with the contract, what you're going to get for it, the plan, and then we can approve or disapprove it. Thank you.
Let me just try to address how we sell real property under New York State law. We don't have a situation where we play favorites. We sell to the highest bidder. If we want to play favorites, I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean in a let's pick somebody who's not going to give the taxpayers the most money. Then we pass a local law and we overtly say we're going to play favorites. We're going to pick something we think is in somebody else's best interest rather than just a bottom line dollar. So this isn't the county executive going, I want Eric to buy it or Langdon to buy it or Damien to buy it. It's whoever puts up the most money. And I'm not yelling. I got a mask on because I'm sitting next to Eric here.
No, I understand.
And Damien. Whoever puts up the most money gets to buy it. It's a straight high bid sale. The law actually encourages that because you're not allowing for favoritism to come in. So the county executive is not going to pick his favorite. It's going to be whoever puts the most money on the table and writes the check. We'll hand him a deed.
Okay, well, let me just ask something else then. I remember in some of the discussions that we've had over the years regarding this property, that the area under the 16.97 acres, that corner, that plateau there, was going to be used basically for storage. There'd be no blasting or anything going to taking place there. Is that in the contract too? Would that be in the contract?
We would sell the property in fee simple absolute, because the way we do the bid is in fee simple absolute. We don't have any requirements one way or the other. Any mining, first of all, there's mining going on this property now, so let's start with that. And any mining that would have to be expanded on would require a Mine Land Reclamation Act permit from the DEC. So the appraisal was done on an operative set of facts, sale to the highest bidder. It wasn't done on an operative set of facts that restricts the sale, the activities once sold. And that would obviously, I'll let the director of real property correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm going to sell something fee simple absolute, that has a higher value than if I'm going to sell it with restrictions built in. And there's never been any request to build in restrictions as far as I'm aware of here.
No. I'm not either.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's all my comments. I'll just remind the legislature that we own the property. Let the county executive's office come back with his highest bid and a plan, a site plan to show us. And then we can decide, because it is our property. Don't ever forget that it's the legislature's property. We're going to give our approvals. We're going to give our okay to hand over control before we even see what the final offer or a site plan is or anything. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Paduk. Next, we have Legislator Kulisek. Mr. Kulisek, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are you? A couple things. Valley View, is that fed by wells or is it fed by supplied by municipal water?
Wells.
Who said well? Somebody?
I said wells because that's what we were told before, which is why the water tank sits there and is not on their property because we have to maintain it. That's how I remember it.
Okay, and Mr. Rusher.
I'm not sure about that. They may get their water from
Florida. Village of
from
Florida.
Glenmere Lake,
Yeah, it's Village of Florida. We have our
Village
own.
of Florida water.
That water
Okay.
was described in that 1.8 acres as being a supply tank for Valley View. That's how it was explained that might have been a year and a half ago at the meetings in regards to this property. That's something we should know before we just okay it, which we won't if we just give the authority to the county executive.
Could be a supply tank, but that doesn't mean that it's not piped from the Village of Florida.
I know there's issues there. That's
Yeah,
possible.
but that has, the supply tank has nothing to do where the water comes from.
Well, the
Well, I'm
continued
not
mining
100% sure that the mining it will, sure will.
with house,
I'm sorry, Mr. Kulisek.
the topography on this map, the elevations. How recent is that, Mr. Rusher? Do you know?
That's current information.
I'm at the understanding that they're down to about 345, not 440. And my reasoning is asking about the water and the 440 as depth is every 100 feet they have to apply for another permit from DEC and do a hydrology exam, a survey to see if it's going to affect any of the aquifers in the area as they go deeper. So that's why I asked about water and wells at Valley View. And as they proceed towards Valley View on the property that we're going to sell them, as they move farther to the left on the map, I don't know if that's west on this map or not, but that'll allow them to go deeper as they move, open the mouth of the mine more, they'll be able to go deeper. So as they go deeper, that's more effect on any of the aquifers that are in the area. So the question was, I'm under the impression from reliable sources that they're down to 330, 345 right now, and there may be an application on the DEC's desk for the next 100 feet of depth. So, and why? And the appraisal, I had not received that yet. I know it went out by snail mail. I have not received it, haven't seen it, haven't been able to ask a question on anything in it. So whoever asked or stated that we all received them, that's not true on everybody's part. And
I'm included.
I don't know if the other legislators on this committee or that are listening, have they received it? I don't know. And if we're going to, is it necessary to go through rules for this to be sold? Or would the Physical Services Committee be enough of a resolution passing to get to the main legislative body for it to sell? Does it have to go through rules?
Pursuant to our legislative manual, if someone asks for it to be on a committee, it can go towards that committee. So if someone asked, the chairman and county exec's office asked that it be also on the rules committee.
Okay. And the secret, why couldn't we see that before this meeting?
Seekers typically go to the Physical Services Committee. They have oversight for that.
But if somebody requested it here, it could have come here? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, but no one requested it, so.
I'm questioning again the how updated this map is, and different reports that are going to be requested by DEC on depth, which I'm led to believe that the depth is much greater than it is now. So, and of course, you know, I've been an advocate to protect the caves since day one, my early days here back in mid 2000s. So I don't think I'm going to be supporting this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kulisek. Next, I see Legislator Hines. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend Legislator Cheney, because I remember when the first appraisal came in at 500, he was adamant that it was dead wrong. And he kept saying, no way, no way. And now we have the proof that he was correct. And I also want to agree with everything Barry said, and I'm also willing to put more money aside for this project to protect those caves, to make the interactive center that we've discussed in the past. And I also want to see that group. We've been contacted, I know a lot of legislators have been, at least I have, by a lot of people interested in protecting the caves. And I assured all of them that I would do whatever I could to protect those caves, in putting up necessary fencing, which I assume is what some of this money is for. And also work with that group and maybe establish a committee that takes people on tours eventually when our engineers and our parks department say that the area is safe. So I think it's going to be a good project as long as we set the proper money aside, and we probably end up spending a lot more money than even the 200 or the 100 that we're talking about. And I'm willing to do that as long as we protect those caves. And again, thanks to Mr. Cheney, for I know he worked hard on this.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Council Reed.
Yes, I just wanted to note that the $100,000 is, I would think, seed money here. But we would hope that the county historian and the parks commissioner could work jointly with our grants coordinator in applying for SHPO grant funds for the project, and perhaps some foundation and archaeological societies. So I think that, there may be money out there that could help with the project. So it's just seed money to protect, just get some trails in there, protect the caves, make it safe for people to go there and do some guided tours, provide some parking. So just the beginning of a project.
Thank you, Council Reed. I see Mr. Kulisek, your hand is up again. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. A little bit of background about the company. This is Tilcon is working this quarry, but their parent company is CRH. And CRH is the largest aggregate producer in the United States, third largest producer in the world. So it would be great if there had been known that we have been trying to protect these caves, if there would be some sort of an agreement with a company that is that big to be able to help us to protect these caves with everything that we want to do there. This is a huge company. I mean, huge. Bigger than you could think, ever. So do your research on CRH, and you'll see how big of a company that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kulisek, and that's much appreciated. I'm scanning here. I don't see any other hands raised of legislators on the committee. I will offer it up to legislators who are here with us as well today, if anyone has any questions. And I'm scanning quickly, and I don't see any. That being said, I see Minority Leader Paduch, your hand has been raised again, sir. The floor is yours.
You're muted, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all do that at least once a meeting. Since Langdon's listening in today, everything that Mr. Kulisek had just talked about, I'm wondering if he, in their negotiations, if you guys approve it today, which I'm not going to be supporting this, that be included, that they reach out to CHR or whatever that name was, Jimmy said CRH, to see if we can get some support in that regard, if we do eventually sell this. So just wanted to recommend that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paduk. I see Legislator Cheney, your hands are raised again, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Two things. One, in response to something Mr. Kulisek said, I was the source of the incorrect information that that document had been mailed. I came to find out earlier this week that it had in fact been emailed on Friday, but not snail mailed. So my apologies to you, Jim, and anyone else, any other legislators that you spoke to. Secondly, how do we deal with the issue of the $100,000 versus $200,000? Is that something that would need to be amended at this time as part of the resolution, or is this that Council Reed provided for us today not part of the resolution?
You would have to make a motion to include it, and then you'd have to make a motion to amend it. So however you want to handle it. If you want to make a motion to amend it to 200,000, up to you.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to amend the amount to 200,000 and append what was provided today to the resolution.
I'll second it.
Second, Hines.
Mr. Cheney with a motion and a second by Mr. Paduk to amend the resolution as aforementioned and increase the dollar amount to $200,000. Am I correct, Mr. Cheney?
Yes, you are.
And then add that language to the main resolution.
With the language added to the main resolution. Thank you, Council Reed. Discussion on the amendment. And I see Majority Leader Benelli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I will agree that there is a possibility that we could be looking at $200,000 and upwards of that, I think the fact is that I wouldn't really want to show our hand. If you heard what Legislative Council Reed had to say in regard to looking for funding from SHPO and things like that, I would rather our money stand at a lower level when they're looking at the project and hopefully putting in applications for different types of funding. So I'd like to keep it at the $100,000. I respect the gentlemen that are looking for more, and that may come to be at the end of the day, but I don't think we're there yet, and I don't really want to show my hand that much. So at that point, I will put my hand down, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
You got it, Majority Leader. And additional discussions on the motion? Okay, not seeing any. My comment will be very brief. As much as I appreciate everyone's comments here today, the quote that this is a start at 100,000 in terms of capital is something that I'm going to stick with, and that if we have to, and if the development goes beyond $100,000 in the future, I'll be willing to vote yes on it in the future. But as of right now, I think 100,000 is a good starting point. So that's my comment to that. And again, not seeing any other comments here, I'm going to call the question to the motion. And Doreen, can we get a roll call on the motion?
Absolutely. Amo,
No.
Bonelli,
No.
Cheney,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Kulisek,
No.
Paduk,
Yes.
Vero,
No.
Fagione.
No.
3 A's. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 5 no's. Motion fails.
Thank you, Doreen. All for that vote on that. That being said, Antoinette, maybe you can help me with this. What I'd like to do now is call the question on the topic at hand, which is
Well-
item number 1.
Well,
With
hold
the-
on, because first you have to add the language. So if we could have a motion to add the language with the $100,000.
Okay, thank you, Antoinette. So I need a motion to add the additional language that includes the capital dollar amount of $100,000.
Motion, Benelli.
And the motion's
Second,
by
Amo.
motion by Benelli, second by Mr. Amo. And I don't believe we need a further discussion on that, but is there any further discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. Okay, to the item at hand, I'll call the question to the motion. Again, can we get a roll call, Doreen?
Absolutely. Amo,
Yes.
Benelli,
Yes.
Cheney,
No.
Hines,
Yes.
Kulisek,
No.
Paduk,
Yes.
Vero,
Yes.
Fagion,
Yes.
6 ayes, 2 noes, motion passes.
Okay, and sticking with my logic, I'll turn to Antoinette again. So Antoinette, that vote was on the motion to add the language to the resolution, correct?
Correct. And now you'll vote on the resolution as amended.
Thank you so much.
And this is for the sale of the quarry for not less than its current appraisal value of $1,275,000. And we need a majority vote here, but on the floor of the legislature, 2/3 vote.
Okay, and discussion on that, I believe we've had good discussion on that this afternoon. And I am going to therefore call the question. Again, Doreen, can we get a roll call on that?
Absolutely. Amo,
Yes.
Benelli,
Yes.
Cheney,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Kulisek,
No.
Paduk,
No.
Vero,
Yes.
Fagion,
Yes.
6 ayes, 2 noes, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right, continuing along, we'll turn to agenda item number 2. And joining us, I believe, is Mr. Castricone himself, Director of Risk Management. And I know that Council Reed is here as well. I'll be seeking a motion and a second for the following. This is a request of authorization to accept a lump sum settlement for payments, reimbursement by the New York State Workers' Compensation Board Special Disability Fund. The total is $6,160,194.93. This is legislative request number 183, and I seek a motion and a second, please.
Kulisek motion.
Mr. Kulisek with the motion and a second.
Vero,
Paduk will
second.
second it.
Mr. Vero on the second. Mr. Castricone, are you still here with us, sir?
I am. Nice to see everyone.
All righty, and if you could just run down quickly a brief synopsis here.
Okay, these funds are, picture a scenario where we have a returning vet with an injured knee. We hire that injured vet. Later on, he hurts his back because he's favoring one leg over the other. Through the process of workers' compensation, this special disability fund was set up to encourage the hiring of a disabled vet, where the special fund would pick up a portion of disability or workers' compensation payments that that employee would be entitled to because he got hurt on the job. This fund has been closed to new applications since, early in the last decade. There was an opportunity when I first came on to request a settlement of these funds. We didn't do it last year, but this year, looking at the scenarios that we're in, I thought it might be a good opportunity to explore. In the last several years, in 2016, we got $567,000 in reimbursements from this fund. In 2017, it was $386. In 2018, it was $206. In 2019, it was $199. So there's a decreasing trend as the people that are in this fund age out. Some of them are, were last employees in the 70s. We had our workers' compensation third-party administrator look to get a settlement from the fund. The settlement comes out at over $6 million. I highly recommend that we, that we accept this and get it while the getting is good. To be quite frank, I think it's a great opportunity for us.
Thank you for that background. Much appreciated. I'll offer up questions. I see I have Mr. Kulisek's hand up. Mr. Kulisek, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That's 6,160,194. Does that go to the general fund?
Where the money is going to go to, I guess, would be, it's going to come into our workers' compensation reserve. And from there, we can use it as we see fit. Each year during the budgeting process, money is taken or put into that fund. This is nice. It gives me an opportunity to kind of break and clutch, where this money should go over the next few years. Probably need, I would say put 2 million or keep about 2 million in the fund. The rest could go into the general fund.
Okay, I know we had used some previous couple of years for balancing budget. And I was just curious if it was going to go into the general fund or back into the compensation fund.
Right. These funds that we get every year, those hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've been talking about, have been used to build the fund. We never really budgeted for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kulisek. Mr. Paduk, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Castricone, in that regard, how this reads is the authorization to accept a lump sum settlement for payments reimbursed. Do you have the total amount of payments the amount of money that I guess I'm submitted to get or reimbursed for? And we got a nice figure there. I would agree with you. But was our amount a lot bigger?
Well, the numbers we haven't done our final submissions for 2020 yet. I think there's, I see from 2020 here, we've got outstanding reimbursements from this year of $160,443.99, but that's not a final number.
Okay, so I guess, why would they give us such a huge amount? Is this for a lot of years or?
We have about 35 cases on this list. Various levels of payment. Some of these people are 93, years of age. Lots of people in their 80s. They go by a mortality chart on how many years they think that people will have left to live. They use a discount factor of 1.8%. When I looked at the numbers and Triad looked at the numbers, we thought that the offer was more than fair, as you're pointing out, which is why I think it's a great opportunity to get while the getting is good. I know that this fund costs the state a lot to maintain. There aren't that many people in it. It takes a whole actuarial board to figure these things out all the time. The claims processing, they don't want any part of it anymore. And, county by county, I know that Westchester has done this, Nassau has done this. We would be the third county to take advantage of this. And I expect most of the others will follow suit once they get word of it.
So you're saying that we won't get any other payments in the future?
From this particular fund, no. They're trying to close this fund out. But as when I went over in the beginning, the payments we're getting have been, decreasing every year. I
agree. You did a good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Hines, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Paduk asked a lot of the questions I was going to ask. How many employees do we have that would even qualify, existing employees, not talking about retirees, but people that have been hired with disabilities? Do you have those numbers, Dan?
I do not. If they haven't submitted a workers' comp claim while employed with us, I wouldn't see it. They wouldn't show up on this list. But you got to remember that this has been closed to new applications since around 2006, 2007. So I'm not even sure that if we hired someone in 2005, if they had an injury now that could be related back, I'm not even sure we could get away with submitting a claim.
Okay, and now, how did they arrive at this number? They did an actuarial calculation of what they think our future claims will be? Or is it just they're gonna close out the pile and send everybody on their way like the tobacco money?
Nope, they did an actuarial run based on the mortality, all the ages of everyone who's involved in this, what their salaries were. Some people are back in the 70s were entitled to $50 a week. Some people, nowadays would be entitled to 5 or 6 times that. So all of that is figured in, and then it's discounted by 1.8%. So the present value of this fund discounted by 1.8% is what the offer is.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Not seeing any additional questions from members of the committee. I see a question. Legislator Stiganga, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan, could you please explain, I realize that this is a settlement, so we would not have any claims that we could put in for any future people who would fall under this classification. But would we have any control over those particular cases? So say somebody did come back from military and then ended up getting hurt. Is the state the one who would be able to decide what their payments are? If they wanted to settle, what the settlement would be for them to claim that we would then have to pay out? Or since they're turning it all over and going to be deleting this program, which is what I thought you alluded to, would we have the ability to do the settlement with those people who may get hurt secondary on a workers' comp claim that would fall under this particular, group?
First, let me reiterate that this is closed to new claims. So someone who was coming back today that we decided to hire with that same bum knee, right? If they hurt their back, in the future, we would be on the hook for the whole thing. This fund does no longer exist. This program no longer exists. Okay. In terms of settlement with existing people that are on here, we would have the opportunity now, if we wanted to use some of this lump sum payment to, offer settlements to these folks if we wanted to. Our third-party administrator often makes settlements with people who are injured on the job instead of taking money forever, taking a lump sum payment. I'm not sure that if they asked me if these would be the folks that I would offer settlements to, in that we're, most of these folks are on very low weekly payments because of how long ago that they were hired. I'd much rather see us settle some of the newer claims than some of these old ones. But again, we leave that up to the actuaries at the third-party administrator triad that we use to make recommendations for settlement, and then I review those recommendations, here in risk.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that we would have control over if we wanted to and negotiated the settlements ourselves, and it wasn't the state still handling that, because with the state, now it's on us. They could just say, "Hey, let's give them this much money," and I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I see final question from Minority Leader Paduk. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan, what's the balance of that fund right now? Do you know?
At the state level?
No, at our level. How much do we have in the workers' compensation fund like that?
Oh, in our actual reserve fund, I'm going to give you a guesstimate, all right, around $31 million.
All right, and how much did we use any this year in the 2021 budget?
I think we took $1 million in the 2021 budget. You'd have to ask Debbie exactly. I think she's on the line.
Okay.
That is correct.
$1 million. Okay, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any further questions. And that being said, I am going to call the question, and I don't think we need a roll call on this. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Castricone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Fagion.
All right, as a remind everyone that item 3 has been pulled from the agenda. We'll move to item 4. And of course, joining us is still Council Reed. She's going to help me through this one. And this is, we have the commissioners of the Board of Elections, Louise Vandermark and Courtney Green. This is I'll be looking for a motion and a second on the following. This is a request amending resolution number 191 of 2020, a resolution to accept revenue and apply the funds to debt service. The purpose is to amend the Schedule A to conform with the county financial systems. This is legislative request number 182, and I seek a motion and a second, please.
Hines.
Mr. Hines with the motion. I'll make the second myself. And Council Reed, can you get us up to speed real quick on this one?
Sure. This is really a financial housekeeping matter to get our resolution to conform to what actually happened and how the monies were actually moved in our financial systems. We have 2 departments that work with our Oracle financing, capital projects, debt service, and that's finance and budget. And so they came to me, both departments, asking to have this change so that the resolution will conform with actually how they move the monies, and it'll be recorded accurately on the county's books.
Okay. That being said, I'll ask if there are any questions from legislators. Okay. I don't see any hands raised, so any legislators not on the committee? Okay. Not seeing that, I will call the question then. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Continuing right along, we have item number 5, and this is our annual organizational meeting. The scheduled date for the organizational meeting is January 7th, 2021 at 3:30 p.m. with a snow date of the day after, January 8th, 2021 at 3:30 p.m. And I need a motion and a second.
Benelli, motion.
Motion
Second.
by legislator Benelli, second by Kevin Hines. I think this is pretty self-explanatory that our organizational meeting needs to take place. And if I'm not mistaken, Antoinette educated me that by statute, we have to have this done when?
By the 8th.
Okay, so the 7th is the day we're going to do it, with the snow date possibly being the 8th if necessary. And I will offer it up to any questions. Mr. Paduk, I see you have your hand raised, sir.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just in regards to that, is this going to be an in-person meeting, or we don't know that yet?
We don't know that yet.
Okay, so we'll
Would
be
be nice.
notified. Yeah, it would, sure would. All right, so we'll be notified when that determination is made.
Correct.
So there won't be any public participation or nothing then if we do it by Microsoft Teams, correct? There won't be anything.
Well, there's usually no
I mean-
public participation on the organization meeting.
Right, okay, fair enough. Thank you.
No
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paduk.
Welcome.
Okay. All right, not seeing any additional questions, I will call the question then. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving right along to item number 6. Of course, Legislative Council Reed is still with us. I seek a motion and a second on the following. This is a local law amending local law number 5 of 2015, as most recently amended and restated by local law number 8 of 2018 for the purpose of authorizing electronic filing and electronic signatures and making provisions for other ancillary amendments. I need a motion and a second, please.
Kulisek motion.
All right, and I'll make the second myself. Council Reed, the floor is yours.
Yes, we were contacted. We received a letter. Mr. Fagione received a letter along with County Attorney's Office, myself, I believe Mr. Chairman, Chairman of the Legislature as well. This year with the pandemic, county employees and elected officials and board members were sending out their disclosure statements not by mail. Some of them were doing it by email. But the problem was that you still had to mail the original signature to the Board of Ethics. So they reconsidered how they receive their annual disclosure statements from individuals, and they are now requesting the authority to accept them either by mail, by hand delivery, or electronically. And in doing so, that would also require us to allow for electronic signatures. So the purpose of, and the third thing was to amend the annual disclosure statement so that when people are, individuals are filling out the application, the disclosure form, and they're addressing the issues having to do with conflicts, that they look at the county's Department of General Services website to review the vendor list, to see whether or not those companies or entities, business entities, are any businesses that they or family members do business with. And if they do, they have to disclose that. So the board, when they were reviewing the disclosure statements, they're finding that people will answer, I don't know, not to my knowledge, not to the best of my knowledge. So here, what we're going to add to the disclosure statement is an actual acknowledgement that the individual did in fact look and review the vendor list. So it serves three purposes, this local law. One is to add the definition of signatures so that it would include, typing your name on the form, typing your name on at the end of an email. Some you see on your iPads, you can agree, you just hit an acknowledge form. So if we go that route in the future, they would have that, accepting terms and agreement terms, or disagree with electronic terms and agreements. So those are the three changes that we've encapsulated in this local law, and you have the changes in yellow on the annual disclosure form. Doreen and I worked on them. We sent them to Gail Cecina, Chair of the Board of Elections, Ethics, and she has approved them. So we're all set. Not elections, ethics. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for the background on that and on the 3 points. That being said, I'll open it up to questions from legislators on the committee. Okay, not seeing any. Any further questions from other legislators? Well, clearly you did a great job explaining that, Antoinette.
Not really, but
With that being said, I will call the question. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. And the final item on our agenda today is item number 7. Of course, joining us is Antoinette Reed, Legislator Benelli, Majority Leader, Legislator Paduch, Minority Leader, Legislator Amo, Independence Party Leader, and I seek a motion and a second on the following. This is a resolution authorizing the chairman of the Orange County Legislature to enter in agreement with for consulting services for its diversity intervention initiative. And this topic may be subject to attorney-client privilege as this discussion goes along. I seek a motion and a second.
Benelli motion.
All righty, and a second, please.
Amo.
Mr. Amo, a second. And well, Antoinette, your name is first on the list, but I know that this is a topic that Mr. Amo has had discussed a great deal of research on. But we'll start with you, Legislative Counsel Reed.
Okay, so let's see, what was the date of this resolution? July 2nd of 2020, the legislature adopted Resolution 142 of 2020, authorizing the Commissioner of General Service to issue an RFP for a diversity intervention initiative. And you made a supplemental appropriation to the legislative board's budget of $100,000 to support that RFP. We worked with the Department of General Services, prepared the RFP, and the RFP was issued in June 17th of 2020, I believe, yeah. And no, we worked on it. And then it went out to bid, I'm sorry, in July 17th. It went out for bid. We received questions July 24th from prospective proposers. We discussed those with leadership, and we responded to those questions, and those were put on the RFP website, General Services website. Then in August, leadership met to discuss the RFP and what we were looking for. We received the proposals. The leadership reviewed the proposals with me, with General Services, and we had some questions for the contracts attorneys in the law department, and they were very helpful. And then in August, we conducted interviews. So on the interviews, the first round of interviews was the party leaders, Mr. Perdue, Ms. Spinelli, and Mr. Amo, along with myself. And then we did a second round of interviews we added two individuals, the Director of Human Rights and the Commissioner of Planning. And then as a result of that, we asked for some revisions from the proposers, if they had any amendments to make. And then we asked for their final and best offer, and we received final and best offers. So there were two teams, I would call them teams, that submitted proposals. The first team was, the lead of that team was Patterns for Progress. We all know them from Newburgh, New York, CGR from I think they're Rochester or Buffalo, New York, and then Joshua Weiss, W-E-I-S-S, who is internationally known for dispute resolution programs, and I believe he is a professor, adjunct professor at Harvard University. He's well known in the industry, has worked on international projects, and he was part of their team as well. And then we had a second team, and that was the lead on that was AFJ Consulting, and the lead person on that was Ambika Jack McGee, along with Ebony Gulborn and Tasmir Aman. And they are not local. AFJ Consulting is in Georgia. Ebony Gulborn, I believe she's in Hartford, Connecticut, and Tasmir Aman is in, she resides in, or her business is in the Bronx. So they all met the technical requirements and as submitted as proposed in the RFP. So it was, we asked them for 5 tasks to be met. And they met each of those criteria. And the proposals, initially, both proposals came in at $100,000. When we asked for the final and best offer, the Patterns for Progress team came in at $80,000 with the offer that they would do 2 pilot projects in the county as opposed to 1. And the other team stayed at the $100,000. And I will say that the AFJ Consulting team is a minority-based MWBE group consulting team, so they would receive extra points. So we did receive the scoring sheets from all of the party leaders. So we'll discuss that in attorney-client, and we'll discuss the, the perceptions and the views from the party leaders and what their recommendations are to the committee. So if there's anything anyone wants to talk that we should be talking about, in open session versus attorney-client privilege, I would think now would be the time to do so.
Okay, so Antoinette, my question to you is, should we enter into the attorney-client privilege now? I see we do have a couple of hands up. Before I offer the floor to my colleagues to ask questions, what would be the parameters of questions that could be asked in open discussion right now?
Well, I think perception, or, you know, what people thought about the proposals, that should be done in attorney-client privilege. But anything as far as factual information is, you know, open for public comment, public review.
Okay, and I see that I have Legislator Cheney and Hines. Your hands are up. Gentlemen, I'll ask you, and I'll start with Legislator Hines, because your hand is on the top of the list here. Is your question something that we can have now, or is it something that you'd prefer to have in the executive session?
No, it can be an open.
Okay, so I will offer the floor to Legislator Hines.
So did both proposers come with 80,000, Antoinette? I didn't catch that.
No, the patterns for progress. Initially, everyone, both teams proposed 100, and then when we asked for final and best, the patterns for progress team came in at 80.
Okay, so with the patterns for progress, I think you mentioned they offered 2 projects. Did they identify the titles of both projects?
Not the titles, but the scope of the project, so to speak. So one would be in an initiative with the Kiers Joel community, and then another one would be a top an area. So, for instance, maybe in the Newburgh area. So they would work with the human rights director, you know, to identify where, and with legislators to identify where the second project would go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Hines. Next, I'll offer up the floor to Legislator Cheney, reminding again if the question is for open discussion or for a possible executive session.
Council can stop me if it's not for open, but I'm pretty sure it's for open. In looking at the fee proposal from the Patterns for Progress, it's unclear to me as to whether they're offering this as a lump sum or is it going to be based on hourly billing rates. And that's something you don't have to answer now. You might not have the answer, but it just, they gave both what would indicate maybe is a lump sum, and then they gave rates below it. So, and then Legislator Amos' favorite question, and I think it's probably still for open discussion. How are we going to measure the success of this study and activities that come out of it?
I will defer to Mr. Amo on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the things we'll ask the consultants to do as they come to us and begin the process is to talk about metrics that we could use regarding whatever project they picked. If they were to pick a project in an urban area dealing with crime, for example, or dealing with coming up with a proposal, then there'd be a measurable point at that project that said, did they accomplish that or did they not accomplish that? I don't think we could set in, because I think as the proposers talked, they would be selecting areas, and I think of the word here, that would talk about people who are ready to participate. I can't think of the phrase right now. So we don't know exactly where the project is going to begin, or which is going to be the first, or exactly the theme of a project. That will all come along in partnership with the leadership and the needs of the county and the partnering communities that want to work with them. If the town of Newburgh or the city of Newburgh wants to work on a project, then they, in conjunction with the consultants and the legislature, would put that together in some form of metric that we could then say, let's measure it and see if it's accomplished.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amo. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Thank you, Mr. Amo. Next, I have Minority Leader Paduch, followed by, I got Minority Leader Paduch. A reminder, again, questions into the open forum or to be measured if we need to go into the executive session. So Minority Leader Paduch, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fagione. Antoinette, just a question here. Why would we be voting on a contract now without, why wouldn't we be picking who we want to give the contract to and then let all the legislators review their proposal so we could have any maybe questions by them answered rather than just leadership before we vote on signing the contract? If we approved whoever we choose today, couldn't they then review their proposal and then vote next month on it?
Well, my understanding was that was the whole purpose of having the party leaders conduct the interviews, that you were vested with the authority to make that recommendation to the body. If you were to do it the other way, then you'd need all 21 legislators to sit on the interviews and to do the scoring. So I think as the party leaders, you, along with the chairman, were vested with the authority by the body to go forward and meet with these people, interview them, review the documentation. You did the evaluations, and you're now coming before the legislature to the Rules Committee to discuss it and provide your expertise, your thoughts, and then make a recommendation. So that was how we structured it. If not, we'd have to go back to square one and have all legislators sit on on the interviews. I'm not sure if you want to do that or not. So
no, that's not my question really. I'm sort of looking at whoever we approve today. Will we forward their proposal to the legislators? I mean, I have concerns that we're going to be voting on $80,000 or $100,000 today to have the chairman sign an agreement without even the legislator looking at what they're approving.
Mr.
I would think that.
If I may, I see that we have Chairman Brescia's hand is raised. We can have Mr. Brescia join us right now, Chairman.
Yes, I mean, that was the intent of the three party leaders and myself, and you guys did the grunt work for this, was to listen to your recommendation. I mean, this is how we do, subcommittees and ad hoc committees during my entire tenure here in the legislature. So, I mean, I feel comfortable moving ahead with your recommendation. I think you guys and council, you guys and lady, excuse me, and council did a great job. I mean, we discussed this in rules previously and put our concerns in there and expanded it to other areas of the county. So I feel comfortable voting today on the proposal. So I don't think there's any, we need to micromanage it.
I'm not actually looking to micromanage. I'm just want to ensure that the opportunity for the rest of the legislature gets to look at it. We can approve them today. We can sign a contract if you want, but I think they should have the opportunity to review what the proposal is too. I agree. I have a favorite. I'm not questioning that portion of it. I'm just questioning why we wouldn't let the rest of the legislature review their proposal once we approve it.
Sure, I have no problem sending out the proposals to everyone. I'm not sure what went out because some of the documents went out, just to legislators. Doreen, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you remember I'm not sure what people received. So,
I don't mean to pass the buck. This was something that Kelly had handled.
Okay.
Kelly.
Okay, but I will make sure that everyone has it, the full proposal. Okay, I apologize. We got a lot of things going on here in we're pushing a lot of deals here, lots of paper, lots of documents going out. Some documents are confidential, so I'm just going to have to check with staff. If not, you will all have it by tomorrow morning.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you for that. But will they have both, or just the one we approved?
Just the one we're recommending.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paduch. I see I have Mr. Amo.
You're muted, Mike.
I think it's just been answered, Mr. Chairman. I'm good now. I think it would just been answered because if we approve it here, it goes to the floor and all 21 members would vote on it. And I suspect at that point, they have every right to get a copy of the proposal they're voting on. So they're going to see it.
Thank you, Mr. Amo. Mr. Paduch, your hand is still raised. Are you still?
I actually just make one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just make a comment. There's some concerns in my caucus regarding the proposal. I think, I'm sure you guys probably have all heard them, that it doesn't go far enough in regard to the racism issue. We got it inserted into the initiative which is a great piece, so I supported it. However, there are concerns in my caucus, just to let you know that these kinds of monies could be spent better in different ways, just to give you that piece. Thank you. That's my final comment.
Thank you, Mr. Paduk. I see that we have no additional hands raised of committee members. I'll offer up additional questions. Again, a reminder that these are questions that are for open discussion and not related to any attorney-client privilege. And I see that we have Legislator Lujan. Your hand is raised, sir. The floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and thank you also to Minority Leader Paduk. I think kind of echoed some of the comments that caucus members have mentioned, and amongst them has been myself. Honestly, from the very beginning, I had very deep concerns about this process, and I echoed that throughout the process, saying I don't feel confident that we're going to find an organization that's going to be able to do this kind of model. And quite frankly, I was concerned precisely for this, that we were going to have a local organization that wasn't going to really be very susceptible. Even for example, one that's local that knows Newburgh, for example, that seems to be one of the popular choices. I don't see this, for example, as an organization that knows Newburgh's issues, or particularly the issues around racism. And so when I see that, it definitely concerns me, because if we really want to address racism and issues like that, and it's not, obviously this is not just about racism, but if we want to talk about those kinds of things, I think it's very important for us to look at organizations that truly understand from the beginning to end, really recognize and support that in their mission. I don't see that. There is one organization which is not from here that does it a little bit better, but I also don't necessarily feel that they do that they can really fulfill the mission that we want. I get that they check the boxes, but I do believe that we brought in the Human Rights Commission in the second interview. I think that's great that she was put in afterwards. But when I look at the work that this commission has been doing, when I see, for example, they've been doing things around anti-Semitism and racial justice and diversity training for years. They've done it without an assistant. They've done it with a limited budget. They've done it with a growing number of protests and challenges. In this very legislature, we have put into the budget to have an assistant, and we've removed it to have an assistant. And now we want to approve $100,000 for an outside company to go and do something, when we already have someone doing this kind of work, and we should be, in fact, reinforcing the work that they're already doing. It has already been said by some of these individuals that ultimately the work will fall on the commission, which is understandable. At the end of the day, that they are the ones who will be responsible to make sure that it goes ahead. That was something that was said from Patterns of Progress, that once we have all the results, the commission would essentially be kind of given the charge of what are we going to do. Honestly, that for me says, well, if we're going to do it that way, well, then we should have just given the money to the commission to begin with. I think that this is a poor usage of money. I think it's well-intentioned. I understand that there's a lot of concerns in the county to do the right thing on this, and I appreciate and recognize that, particularly on issues regard to racism. But I wholeheartedly do not believe that this is the route, and I think it's quite unfortunate that we're going this direction. But again, I understand. I don't want to, and I'm not trying to bash anybody, because I know that ultimately everyone here wants to do something. Something is better than nothing sometimes, right? I get that. But we could do something with the money that we have with the commission. And that is my point. That is the position I have had the entire time. And again, when you have one of the few people of color in the legislature that tells you, hey, maybe this diversity thing might not work out, it might be worth listening to why. So, I did ask from the very beginning, I'd be happy to have been involved in the process to kind of highlight some of those things early on. I would have made myself available at any point. I'm sure Joel Sierra would have made himself available at any point. And I'm sure that we could have brought in community members that represents the NAACP or others that could have weighed in and given some information about which way we could go, or maybe even reach out to different organizations. Again, I think this is a well-intentioned project. I understand that this is, and I'm grateful that it's not just about anti-Semitism, that we've also added racism and other issues. But again, I just do not feel that any one of these projects, these organizations really feed that need. And honestly, I would send it back out at this point, because they just don't really seem to do what we're going to need to, or give the money to the Human Rights Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Legislator Lujan. At this point, I don't see additional hands raised. Antoinette, I'm going to defer to you. Is it necessary for us to enter into the attorney-client privilege at this time?
It is, yes. So I'd ask for you to entertain a motion.
Can you lay out that motion so that we,
Yes, it's for purposes of discussing the results of the request for proposals and the recommendations of legislative council and the party leaders with respect to hiring a consulting team to work with the legislature on a diversity intervention initiative.
I apologize. Antoinette, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Where'd
I
you
will
go,
make that
Tom?
motion. Benelli
I'm back.
motion.
I'm back now, Antoinette. I hope you guys can see me.
Yes.
Wow, that's probably the worst time for me to get disconnected.
Okay, so it's in a motion, attorney-client session with legislative council and party leaders to discuss the proposals received for a diversity intervention initiative and hiring a consulting team to work with us on that. So that's.
I'll make the motion.
All right, so the motion by Mr. Amo, and I need a second on that.
Benelli second.
And Legislator Benelli on a second. Okay, at this point, I will turn to our legislative staff, Doreen.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you, everyone. And Antoinette, I'll defer to you. We are now officially out of executive session, correct?
That is correct.
All righty. And that being said, we'll return to the topic at hand, which is item number 7 on the agenda. I'll open up the floor to additional comments and questions. And Antoinette, help me. Am I doing the right thing there?
Yep. Yes,
All right.
well, yes. Well, now I think what you want to do is that you want to read the resolution with the name and the amount in it. And that would take a motion on that.
All right, so what we're going to do now is the resolution will be as follows. And this is a resolution authorizing the chairman of the Orange County Legislature to enter into an agreement with, and can we get the title right there, Antoinette?
Sure, Patterns for Progress and Joshua Weiss, W-E-I-S-S, in the amount of $80,000.
And that will be for consulting services for the Diversity Intervention Initiative.
Correct.
And so do we need to take a motion and a second on that?
Yes.
So a motion and a second to accept Patterns for Progress as for the consulting service.
Kulisek motion.
Mr. Kulisek, motion. Mr. Paduk with the second. Thank you, gentlemen. And I will open up the floor to any questions. And I am carefully scanning, and I don't see any hands raised of committee members. Any additional legislators? Okay, not seeing any hands raised. Doreen, can we get a roll call vote on this, please?
Absolutely. Amo,
Yes.
Benelli,
Yes.
Cheney,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Kulisek,
Yes.
Paduk,
Yes.
Vero,
Yes.
Fagion.
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
Thank you, Doreen. And thank you all for working hard at this meeting today. I apologize for being disconnected. Technology in Cutterbackville sometimes can be suspect, but I appreciate you all. And that being said, I see that the desk is clear, and I look for a motion to adjourn. I see Majority Leader Benelli, your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize to all of you, but I really would be remiss if I didn't thank Antoinette Reed in helping us navigate through this process. It was done very, very professionally. And as you had said previously, Mr. Chairman, I really enjoyed working with my two party leaders. We worked very, very well together. We came with a good consensus of where we want to move forward. And I think that government should act like that more often. We really work very, very well together. And I commend both Michael Amo and Mike Paduk for working on this very important initiative for our county and quite frankly for our state. And we couldn't have done it without Antoinette's help. So Antoinette, thank you so much.
Well, you know, it really, it all starts with Mr. Amo working with the law department because they had hours and hours in preparing the proposal, the request for proposals. And so that, you know, that was sort of the brains behind the whole thing and made our jobs, I think, really easy. So thanks, Mr. Amo, and thanks, Susan Wellen in the law department.
It was a true example of a team effort. So thank you, everybody.
Great team effort, yes, absolutely.
And Leader Paduk, I see you have your hand raised. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd be remiss not to thank Antoinette as well. And working with Mr. Amo and Katie was exceptional. We went through the process, whatever it took to get there, to make our recommendations today, and I'm very proud to have worked with them. And what I'll say is that let's keep it up.
Well said, Mr. Paduk, well said. And the final word will go to you, Mr. Amo, sir.
Amen. We've got something done. Let's go forward. I agree with Mike. Let's keep it up. It was such a collaborative effort. And I think we set aside a lot of our special interests and we got into the idea that needed to get done. And I'm only excited that we'll just keep expanding this because we all know that if we live through the kind of conflicts that some of us have lived through, we know we need help. And this is a future for us. I think this is going to really be good. Thank you.
Well, Thank you all. You guys are named leaders for a reason, and we thank you for that. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Have a good.
Everyone be
Have a good
well.
night, all.
Thank you all. Please be safe.
You
Take
too.
care.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
Good
care.
job, Mr. Chairman.
Bye, everybody.